Okay, so first things first, I'm going to once again try and do the thread application in Android Studio. So we start by creating a new project, empty view activity. I'll call it threaded counting. I want to make that a capital because Android Studio is going to create a class for me. And I want the class names to be capitalized. Oh, okay. I've got a chatter. Okay, the wild mystery is saying hi because I suspect that they must be super pumped about learning about Android. Okay, so threaded counting. Finish. Okay, so at this point, the project is just kind of initializing itself. Oh, Microsoft Defender configuration. I have to tell Microsoft Defender that this Android project is not some attempt to hack Windows. Okay, so it's finally initialized itself. Okay, so like any Android project, the main things we start with are the XML file that defines what the user interface looks like we see here. Then the main activity, which is where the code for the application starts. So for this threaded application, first we'll start by sticking a button in there. That button can have mostly all of the same stuff, but it's going to go to the top of the parent, and that text is going to go to the bottom of the parent. So what does that look like? That looks like this. So the button, instead of saying hello world, we'll say, let's say start counting. This will be 0. Now these need IDs so that when we write the code, we can reference them. Thread start. Well, no, the thread's going to start by itself. So ID count button. It's a button that either starts or resumes the counting. And this one will be count text. Text view specifically. Okay, so that's that. Now the code starts, and the first thing we'll do is we'll make a new class. And I'm sort of coming up blank here. I need a new, oh, because we're not making a new resource. That's why. There. So within here, we want a new Kotlin class. So counter thread pretty much describes what it is. And it's going to take a parameter. We're going to pass the main activity to it. Oh, it doesn't know what that is. It soon will. If we actually choose it from the IntelliSense, it'll add the import automatically. Yeah, it's telling us that we need an init. There we go. What else doesn't it like? I think I can actually initialize that without the init, like so. I'm not entirely seeing what it doesn't like about inheriting from thread. Guess I'll soon find out. Oh, right, okay. You sort of have to give it a constructor, even if the constructor takes nothing. Okay, and so I'll leave that in it. So that in it will be a good place to initialize other variables. For example, what did I call those buttons again? Count text view and count button. I think it's complaining that I haven't initialized it yet. Yep, it's okay. As we can see, IntelliSense added the imports for these classes slash data types. Okay, now here's a crucial part. We need to find view by ID. Now we're sort of digging into what we defined in the XML file. Right there. And similarly, we'll do the same thing with the button. So that gives us references to the button and the text, which is going to be updating. So all this thread is going to do is count, and it'll update that text box, text view. So next we need just a Boolean variable to tell us that the thread is in fact running. That can be initialized to false. We'll make it true when it needs to be true. Okay, and then the button, I'll make a function called, I guess it's a private function. This is toggle counter thread. I don't know what toggle. I'll call it start, stop. It's already a counter thread, so stop start might be kind of a good enough name. We'll kind of see what that looks like. So the button is going to call that. We'll have a listener that makes it so the button will call that function essentially. So that's set on click listener. The parameters of that function is a lambda function, or we can just ignore the first parameter. That's what the underscore refers to. It'll call stop start, which doesn't do anything at the moment, but soon will. And finally, we need, what do we need? So count. And that would be an int. Let's initialize to 0. What stop start is going to do is toggle the Boolean. I think that'll work. Yeah, definitely got to be that. Doesn't work, I'll soon find out anyway. Most of the Boolean operators are similar to what you find in C or Java, the usual stuff. Okay, now this is our thread, our running thread. This thread is essentially going forever, at least for now, in this kind of simple demonstration of a counter application. And then we say, okay, if thread is running, then the count is going to increase. Our counter is going to go up. But that's not all. We also need to update the text box. We don't want the text box to update extremely quickly, so we want to sleep for some amount of milliseconds, like say 1,000. That would be a second. And then we want to update the text box. Now here's the trick though. You can't update the UI from just some random thread. So we have this special function, a very good function, called run on UI thread. We got an awful lot of brackets occurring here. Anyway. So that text view, text will just happen to equal that integer dot toString. That might be all there is to it. Let's just build this thing, save and build. I haven't actually made an instance of this class yet. But it's good to make sure your application at least compiles from time to time. This one's a tough one to actually run in small little increments. So you at least need the thread. You need a fully functioning thread. But this is a fully functioning thread, so this late init means that we're not going to have an initialization, and it's not going to get initialized right away. Maybe it can get initialized right away. Oh, no, it can't. Because we need to pass an instance of this class to it. Let's just get that by IntelliSense in case it needs to add anything up here, which it doesn't. Okay, so we want to put this in onCreate after the Android boilerplate stuff. And then we pass in this, meaning main activity, this instance of main activity. And then we want to start the thread. And the reason I put all that stuff in a different class is because, just look at all this stuff. I could have put all that stuff in main activity, but then your code is all littered and disorganized, and we don't want that. Okay, let's make sure I didn't break it. So we build. That's about as complicated a program as I'd ever want to make without giving it a test run first. I wouldn't want to get any more complicated than that without giving it a go. Normally, I like to write even less code than that before I get to doing something, giving it a test run. But I mean, that thread I did is about as simple a thread as you can possibly get. So the first test run is now. And it takes quite a while for the virtual machine to come up, as you can see. So we'll start counting. And we can see the text box is counting. It's very small, though. Well, you can probably detect a few things wrong with this UI. So first of all, we want to make that text bigger. And I'm just sort of digging through my archives to figure out how to do that. There we go. Text size. I made it 40 SP. Okay. Let's minimize that. Virtual machine. Go to our UI, XML. There we go. The first one. 40 SP. Let's look at what that looks like. Yeah, that's better. Maybe big enough to actually see this time. Oh, let's go crazy and make it 50. You only live once. Okay. Nice and visible. Okay, we want the button to say something like start, stop, counting. Yeah, that's better, more descriptive of what it's actually doing. Okay, let's give that a build and a run. This won't take as long because the virtual machine was already up, the virtual device. We'll stop, start. Okay, there's our thread incrementing the text box. And stop it. It stops. Now we can resume it. There we go, success. So the final notes before I end. So obviously I didn't do any real error checking here. We're just continuing to count up. When it reaches the limit of an integer, the app is going to blow up. But this is just a demo, so we're keeping it simple. I don't know what the limit of an integer is. Worth checking though. Then the real crux of how the problem got easily solved of updating the text box from another thread is this run on UI thread. In fact, why don't we just see what happens if we tried to directly just manipulate that UI element from the thread without running on UI thread. Because sometimes breaking things on purpose is kind of a good way to go. So we'll go to log cat, and it'll probably crash when I press the button. Boy, it sure did. I'll stop log cat. Here's the error message. Android view, blah blah, called from wrong thread exception. Hopefully it provided a line number. Only the original thread that created a view hierarchy can touch its views. If we go down this call stack way down, so counter thread.kt36, which is the suspect line. So there, we managed to break the app by making a thread touch what it's not allowed to. We fix it by running on UI thread. This function is just absolute magic. Anyway, that's the extreme basics of threading in an Android app. It's an important thing though for like creating games and stuff, so this is a good place to start. So with that, this will be the end of the video. I'll move on to be playing NES games. At least from the point of view of this video, good night, you all.